everyone to our today's lunch talk. I'm very happy that today I will talk to Pascal Kurtansky, who is a senior engineer and consultant and is dealing a lot and is an expert in the field of digital transformation. And today we will talk about digital transformation and about a lot of interesting topics around that. So welcome, Pascal. It's good to meet you in this session.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, so thanks for the invitation. It's a good opportunity to speak with you about digital transformation and all these interesting topics. So when I was young and smooth, I studied computer science at Swiss Federal Institute of Technology here in Zurich. I then did a PhD in communication systems, also at ETH Zurich, and I have been writing this very interesting book. It's my PhD thesis. So after that, I went to a bank, to work for a bank. It's the Zurich Cantonal Bank here, the Bank of the Canton of Zurich. I was joining the team of technology management, where basically, roughly spoken, the idea was to do technology scouting to identify new or emerging technologies that the bank could make use of in a productive environment. And also from this period, I have a souvenir. It's this one. It's the USB stick that we did in cooperation with the IBM Research Lab in Zurich. It's a special way of authentication for e-banking. It's still in place, I think, still in use, but it's of course phased out now because they have different means of authentication right now. And after that, working for a bank, I changed industry. I went to SBB, Swiss Federal Railways, where I was joining the IT department. I was in the, I worked there as a lead enterprise architect for several architecture domains, and so it was in the business IT alignment. And from this period of time, I also, of course, have a souvenir. It's these old split flap displays from SBB, which I tried to make it work. And so yeah, I was there for a couple of 5 years. I was also in innovation projects, like for instance the indoor navigation in the central railway stations here in Zurich. Mm-hmm. And after that, I went to a consulting company. So since 3 years, I'm with Elka now, working as a senior consultant in the Elka advisory unit. And yeah, that's basically
okay.
My short CV. And being an engineer, I always keep this WT40. So if everything breaks, should break, you can use WT40.
What is that? Is that a glue?
No.
Glue?
No. If something is not working as it should, so you might
okay, it's a kind of oil.
WT40 and everything is fixed. So engineers always keep a bottle of this. So
okay, great. This is very that's important to have the necessary tools always.
Yes, of course.
Okay, so this is interesting. So you're dealing with the topic or with the subject of digital transformation already for a long time. And I guess you know a lot of different perspectives on the same matter, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Something that we very often hear in discussions, in webinars, in always actually, is some people say, okay, what we are doing right now, it's not digital transformation, because the digitalization or digital transformation happened already 20 years ago. Now we are in another level of digitalization of automation and so on. And therefore, I think it is very important, before we start our discussions and our exchange, to clarify what we are actually talking about when we say digital transformation. How would you define this term? What concept do you what do you understand under this this expression?
Well, I would say there is no single definition that is agreed upon on everywhere. What is digital transformation and what is it not? So I would rather say there are different levels that companies have in the sense of being digital or having already passed the digital transformation in the last years. So say on the first level or on the lowest level, it's basically coming from the, say, good old analog world to the digital world, that you have say a process that is done on paper work, and there is no digital representation of this process yet. So this is one of the first step many companies still are struggling with, that they still keep important information on paper, maybe also handwritten. And so this is, so to say, the first step, so to make the digitalization there. And then, of course, you have some other levels that go up eventually to the level where you can make use of the digital, the new digital technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, and stuff like this, to take advantage of the digital assets you're having in your companies. What we also very often see is that you start to make something like it's called a digital twin. So it's a digital representation of say an entity that exists in the real world, and you are representing it with a digital object that you can manage, that you can manipulate, that you can collect data with it. So it's a digital transformation it's not only about technology, by the way, and this is very important. This is also, it changes the behavior of how business is done, and how you are facing or interacting with.
It's an organizational change, actually.
Yes, this is true as well. Yes. And I would say also that let me put it in a very short way. So if something is not working in the analog world, it will not in the digital world as well. So, for instance, if you have in a company, if companies have master data which is not correct, which is wrong, or which is not complete, even if it's on a piece of paper, it doesn't matter. Then you say, okay, we go to a digital way of using this data, and we are maybe also buying some software, or we are developing software. Well, if the master data is still not correct, it will not be correct in a digital world.
Even if you transform it into a digital platform, it's still wrong or still incomplete.
Yes, so you still have to fix a couple of things before you can do the very innovative or fancy things. And this is,
we have to do our homeworks before starting.
Yes, exactly. So this is very often for companies a bit difficult to understand, or for people, because they say, yeah, we want to go in the digital transformation, the new digital area. We want to have all these nice things that we heard about in these tech blogs about machine learning or whatever, or IoT, Internet of Things. But I always say, well, okay, that's good. You can go there, but this can be your target, fine. But first of all, you have to do some things which are not so, interesting. So you really have to do your homework first, so that you can make use of your data in your the new digital way. I mean, this is sometimes a little bit, say, frustrating, maybe a bit, yeah. So we want to apply these new tools now, but before you can actually do it, you have to first, do your homework, basically.
Yeah, I understand. What are the main challenges that companies actually have when they start transforming their processes into a digital process? What is your experience?
Well, quite often business processes are already done with the help of some, say, IT tools. And often these IT software is then referred to as a tool. And what they mean with a tool is very often Excel or maybe an Access database or something. So very, say, Office, MS Office related tools, simple tools that they are using. And between these processes, you often have a human interface in between. That is basically copying the data from the left side to the right side. But at this time, also this person is doing some is cleaning up the data a little bit and enhancing the quality of the data, for instance, because he's checking
some maintenance.
Or he's checking the data, say, oh no, this is not possible, this is probably wrong, so I will change it. And then when you try to digitize these processes, you often forget this human interface in between. This because you say, yeah, okay, we put the data in a new database, and then we have the process digitized, everything works fine, and then you realize, well, no, actually, this guy was probably doing a lot more than just copying the data.
Yeah.
Now you can say, well, this is a typical problem that you can address with business analysis, so you would find it out that this guy is doing more. But it's something that, especially in huge projects, gets forgotten quite often, and then you realize that putting the things together does not work as expected, or you can also, in the analog world, you can say you can cheat always a little bit. So when you're producing
which is not possible if you have everything very transparent and clear.
Exactly. Yeah. So then you realize that, for instance, that some stop positions in the public transportation are not entered correctly. But if you're doing it, just producing it in Word, this layout, then yeah, you can write down anything you want. You know, it's not checked, so connected together. But if you connect the dots together, so to say, for a new digital process, then it does matter that the data is correct, that it is complete, that the syntax of the data is the same and understood in the same way. For instance, date has to be in the same format, so it's month first, or then day, and so on. And also this is very important, that the semantics are understood that the semantics are the same, or that we know that what we are actually representing in the digital world. And there are a lot of differences how to represent the real world in the digital world. And if this is not done in the same way, and then you try to connect these different digital representations together to form a unique digital process, then you find out, oops, it doesn't work as expected.
Yeah.
So this is what typically we are facing with.
Yeah. I'm terminology expert or terminology manager, terminologist, and I see actually in every company that I enter to help in the field of terminology management that there is a big mess with the terms they use. So that means for one part there exists usually 5 or 6 or even more terms. For one concept there exists 5, 6 or even more terms, and there are a lot of synonyms, and which you don't only find in the communication and in the documentation, but also in different databases existing in the company.
Yeah, exactly.
And I wonder what your experience is, because when I enter into a company, I usually enter from the engineering side, from the technical documentation side. They call me and they say, okay, for our processes, we have a big mess and we need your help. And so this is what I see. And you have the perspective of the person who takes care of the digital transformation. And I was wondering, when you go into a company and you see this situation that they have the metadata they use is not consistent and it does not match, how do you go on with that? So what is your approach in that case, which happens very often?
Yes, it happens very often. So first of all, it depends a bit which role I have in such a project. So if I have the role of a business analyst in such a project, then say it's a bit limited what I can do, because I'm just part of this project and I can help them to find these different definitions and how to deal with them. But
it's a big project. It's nothing that you can do within 2-3 weeks.
Yeah. So then if I'm in a project and we're facing these problems, then if there is a mismatch in definitions, so there is, if you're in a project, an IT project, there's not so much you can do, because you just have a very narrow focus of the project. Then you can basically try to that the lead system giving you the data, providing you the data, that they change a little bit the way they're giving you the data, or make a transformation in it, but it's quite limited. However, if I do work as a consultant, a classical consultant, if you wish to say, in a company, then you of course you have different ways to address such a situation, more on a company-wide, more on a strategic level. And so, for instance, for one company, for one customer, I did a data governance that was that basically identifies the different roles people are having concerning data. Is there a chief data officer? Is there a data owner? Do we have a glossary? Do we have?
This is more on the IT level. What you're talking about data that are,
yeah, well,
or more communication level.
No, so if you're, well, what is data? I mean, there are different levels.
Yeah, that's exactly the question. What kind of data you're talking about?
So if you're dealing with on a more strategic level, then most of the time is business-oriented data, or business data, if you wish to say. The data objects you find there are very high level, and the data owner is basically somebody who is typically not in the IT department. Instead, it's in the business department, and this guy is, amongst many other things, responsible for the data quality of that business object. That's why most of the time we are talking about business objects, Geschäftsdatenobjekte in German, and this is the level where, for instance, the data governance is managing, regulating things on this level.
Yeah.
But it can also be, of course, on the say more IT technical level as well. Of course, then it's a more technical perspective. It's not on this high level. But the important message here is that you should try to connect these different levels together, so that you can say, okay, we are about to change some aspects of this business object. What's the impact on the IT system?
Exactly, yeah.
Where is this data actually stored?
Who uses this data? Who creates this data? And who does it implement in the daily business?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
These are actually, I mean, I work with the terminology. So when I work in a company or for a company, so what we do is we don't create all these Excel lists, which are word-based. What we do is we focus on the concept, so on the idea. What is behind this? What is behind this tool? What is this actually? So what we do is, first of all, to write down a definition to make clear what it is about and what is the difference between this tool and another tool which is very similar, or another component or machine or whatever. And then afterwards we look for the existing words. So it's another perspective, another area than what you're talking about with the data. But at the end, when in the terminology management, when I say, okay, I choose for this, there are 5 different words existing in the company, which is not a lot in a big company. 5 synonyms are not a lot. It's usually existing. And what we do is to say, okay, now we know what we are talking about. Now we look, okay, what kind of terms or words are existing, and then we choose which one is the perfect one that we want to use from now on when we talk about this. And at the end, the words we define as a standard term for a concept, for an idea, or for a part, this lands, or it ends up to be in a database, which is relevant when you talk about metadata, when you talk about some data. Then the words, if it's on a word level, sometimes these are numbers, but when it goes on the word level, these are the words that ideally the terminology team has defined together with specialists, with product managers, or what business owners for certain concepts. So these are two areas both of us work together, which end up to be very important and have a big impact on other processes and on other data exchanges in a company, which is essential actually for the efficiency, for the processes, for the success of a company, right?
Yeah. So, and also it's an important thing is that make this glossary or definitions or modeling of this business object, make it available to everyone so that they can check and see how it is called and learn from the beginning, so to say, to use the correct
They have to be trained.
Yes, this is a very important thing as well. Yes.
Exactly. What usually is done when a company does a proper terminology management is that they don't work with Excels. So the day you start doing terminology management, a proper one, a high level one, you don't work anymore with Excel lists. So we usually use terminology databases where we can visualize, not only writing down definitions, but also visualize the concept we're talking about with a picture or with a graphic or with some illustration, and then add it with the definition which describes this content, and then we put in several languages that are important, the terms. So it's a multilingual database which has not only words, but also the definition of the concept, maybe a picture, but also other relevant information about the project, about the user or target group, about the documents you have to use it with a context information. And what you can also do with the content in that special tool is you can link them together, so that you know, a little bit like with hyperlinks, something to make it understandable, so that you can also see the relation between the different content in that, so in that database. And then exactly what you mentioned, to make it available for the employees, for the company, the whole company, but sometimes also for the for companies we work together, who deliver some documentation, deliver some parts, some other services. Maybe they also need to have access to that information, or translation agencies and a lot of other stakeholders. And what usually companies can do, they can give a web-based access to this database via intranet or some other link to the company, which they can use as an online dictionary on the one side, but this is still not enough. The other thing that you have also to deliver is the opportunity to, you know, to check up the terminology they use on a daily basis, because if you write an email or a document or a contract, you don't have in that, you don't even think about checking up the terminology to choose the right one. So the thing that one can do is to have, you know, like terminology checkups, like plugins in the document or in the tool you work, which shows you,
nice.
okay, now you're using this word. Please consider if you don't want to use the other word in that context. And then as a user, you can decide whether the recommendation from that tool fits in your context or not. And that helps a lot, that the people who are writing text, they learn, first of all, okay, I used for 30 years this word, but it's not the right one. From now on, I should use another one. It's a learning process on the one side, and on the other side also a quality check.
It's true, it's exactly.
It's absolutely necessary. It's not enough that you have a team of terminologists who do the work and no one else knows about that.
That's true. So you really have to, from the beginning, you know, the people who are the intended people who are using this terminology should be included from the very beginning. And it's also the same when we are talking about data quality of these business objects. I mean, if you do it, if you clean up the lead systems once, maybe twice, okay, fine. But then it's done. They did a lot of work, but after that, nobody is taking care of it on an everyday basis. So they say, oh, okay, we did it once, now it's fine, and they forget it. So this is very important.
They don't maintain the content.
Yeah, you have to do this, and you have to use some KPIs and monitoring this data quality, for instance.
It's actually not a project which ends at it's a process that never ends. You have always, maybe at the beginning you have a lot of work because you have to clean up a lot of things, a lot of data, and to create a certain level, but the work itself never ends, because as you said, you have to maintain it, and you have to add it with new information on depending on the development in your area. Exactly. Yeah. And just a question at the end, what do you think is, for the companies who decide to do digital transformation, what are the biggest chances or the biggest most important reasons why they do it, or what they should do it?
Well,
it's only a trend.
Well, there are many reasons. So why do they want to do it? I mean, they say, okay, so first thing can be that they say, well, we are facing some issues, that we are too slow to produce a new service, a new product, or we are not actually able to get all these customer feedbacks from social media and email and phone calls, put them together. And so most of these digital initiatives are actually based on some issues the companies are facing.
Depending on the issues they have,
typically in bigger companies. Now, maybe in smaller companies like startups or so on, they go from the other way. They say, well, if we have all this data, we combine it with machine learning, and I don't know, we go to some very nice IoT environments, we can collect the data. What can we actually, so they basically are not starting on the lowest level of digitalization, they're already on the, say, fourth or highest level, if you wish to say, and say, okay, what can we achieve with the data we are collecting, with all these tools that are available today. I mean, it's amazing. So for instance, for machine learning, you have tools available on the net that you can use. So it's really,
there are a lot of options.
There are really a lot of options. I remember it very well when I studied computer science. I started in 1994. So we were the first guys who received an email address already in first semester at ETH. And you had to go to one room on the, I think it was on the G floor, and there was one room with Sun Solaris workstations where you could connect to the internet. Wow! I mean, this is, and the knowledge that is today available on the net is really amazing. You have good tutorials and people sharing their knowledge. And for instance, myself, I am also at my library on GitHub.
Yeah. I think knowledge sharing and creating some kind of transparency in a company are, from my point of view, something, I mean, besides getting a new level of revenue and growth and I don't know, efficiency and so on. But besides that, from my point of view, something very important is to create a level of transparency and the possibility to have, you know, knowledge sharing, and also using social network platforms, especially for companies or in companies,
Yes.
to connect the stakeholders and to connect the people in a company more together, so that they can exchange more ideas and work even more deeply together.
But
which is possible.
I agree, but what we also see quite often is that this transparency is not everybody likes it that much. So let me put it this way. So it's as we say in Swiss German, they want to keep their own little garden. So
yeah, it's a cultural.
So this is, and then when you say, okay, now we have a digital process and blah blah blah, everything is on the intranet available. People can comment or whatever. So they say, no, we don't want this. This is want to keep it at our team, and we are just the guys who are responsible for it and so on. So sometimes it's a bit hard to break up these small gardens,
it is.
as we call it in Swiss German. But I agree. I mean, it's about transparency, and it's also that they realize that, okay, the data we are producing in our team is actually used in other teams as well.
Yeah.
Only for us, for the others.
I think the teams or the different departments, they have to understand. And first of all, the person in charge to manage them, the managers, first of all, have to understand that if they share their knowledge, they can be even better. You know, and this is, I think this is the biggest impact, actually. If you share, then you can grow, everyone can grow more, and they can create better results
yes,
within a company. But this is something that, first of all, on the management level, they have to understand. If the management doesn't understand it and do not want to implement this idea, then of course you have no chance.
Yeah, but it's also like, I mean, there are different cultures in the companies. So exactly. The ones I've seen, so for instance, there was a huge difference between SVB and the bank. I don't want to put one over the other. It's not the thing now. But
of course there are differences. Yeah,
it's a different way of doing the business. I mean, exactly. Of course, well, now we can say, well, it's a complete different business. That's why it is different. But
even if you have two companies in the same field, in the same sector, even there you see huge differences. I mean, organizational differences, but also cultural differences.
Yeah, and then this has an influence, of course, how they would like to share their knowledge or their
on which level they want to share.
Yes, or if they're more like, okay, let's keep our small garden and but so this is it really depends on the culture.
Exactly. Yeah.
As well, yeah. So.
Yeah, but these things can be very big chances for companies or even for departments or project teams to have a better performance.
Sure.
Okay, this is actually, it could be a goal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I also think that what you see that over the years that the open source. This is also something that I remember from the companies I've seen that they started to say, no, we are not going to use open source. Well, why? Never. Are you crazy? This is for hobbyists. No, we don't want to do that. But now if you go to this machine learning stuff, a lot of these stuff is open source, it's available. Of course, the big companies like Google and so on, they keep a lot of these stuff also private, of course, or Apple. But I mean, but many things is open source, is available there, and slowly also bigger companies are using open source software and are contributing back to the repositories on GitHub or wherever.
But again, it depends on their culture, about their way of the mindset they have.
And for instance, if you look, thing which started a couple of years ago is the container-based approach to run software in the cloud, be it your private cloud or in the public cloud. So most famous product there is Docker. And so, of course, they have a product that you can buy, but most of the parts are just available more or less open source. So and it's a huge success story. I mean, it's the de facto standard for container-based IT operations. So I also think that there, you know, sharing the knowledge with even in between different companies is very important. And
Sure.
yeah, so but this is also quite for some companies this is quite difficult.
Yeah, it depends a lot on the field and on the sector they are working. Yeah. Well, Pascal, it was very interesting. Thank you a lot for this very short talk. Actually, we could continue this conversation, I think, for hours.
Yeah, but I'm hungry, but
maybe not today. No, but I would like to invite everyone who is watching this video to leave comments for us and to discuss with us in the comments.
Yeah.
It would be very interesting to continue these ideas because they are very important to everyone, I think, and very interesting as well. So thanks again, Pascal.
Thank you.
I hope we can continue our conversation
yeah, sure.
Other time, maybe not offline, maybe not online, but offline. Would be great.
Yes, of course.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. And thank you very much again and have a great rest of the day.
You too. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.